Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, Rachel.
Hello, Abby. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. You're looking lovely today.
Oh, thanks. So are you?
Thank you. We are turning my office into my daughter's bedroom, and I will be moving offices. So we're like mid transition. So you're going to slowly start seeing my office look different. And then one day it'll just change into a totally different room. It's like the slowest magic show you've ever seen.
That's fantastic. She actually was showing me a sneak peek before we jumped on. I'm super excited for your daughter.
Me too.
She's going to have an amazing room in there, and
Yeah.
you're going to have an amazing office.
I know, I'm really excited for it. So, everyone, hello, welcome. This is actually the last day of our burnout series. So, if you don't know, for the past 2 weeks, we've really been diving into some kind of tough topics. These are the things that, after working with thousands of virtual assistants and service providers, we have seen that there are some commonalities between the people who keep going and keep moving forward and the people who stop because they burn out. And we all know business burnout is real. We all know the pain sometimes that you can feel when you're just like, I'm too overwhelmed. I feel like this is too much. And I don't even see really a path out of it. And that can be crippling, honestly. And so that's what we've been diving into. What does burnout look like? Is it something that you're experiencing? And what are some of the steps that you can actually start to take to get out of that burnout? So I'm so excited that we are doing that. We've been doing this entire series. I'm so excited that you guys have been joining us for us and been so engaged inside of the series as well. And today we're going to be talking to you about something really real. And what we're going to be talking about is fear. And we're going to be diving into some of our own fears that we face as business owners, some of the things that you have likely faced as well. So, the one thing that I asked throughout this entire live stream is that we can just be honest with one another. Like, can you guys agree with that for me? Like, can we just like own up and say, yeah, I have fears. This business owner thing is scary. And there's things I didn't know that I would be scared about, but I think the more that we share our fears with one another, the more that we can resonate with those things and be like, oh, I'm not alone. So, um, Rachel, I know we're going to be diving into your story today, but we do have a very special announcement before we jump in. So, Rachel, do you want to tell everyone what that is? What's happening next week?
I would love to. So next Tuesday, we are not actually going to be doing a public live like we do every Tuesday. We're going to be doing a special webinar for all of you that have applied during our burnout series for our 6 steps to scale webinar. It is by application only. If you go to thevirtualsavvy.com/apply, and I think the team can put the link in the comments. You have the link right there on the screen. Just a really super simple application. It'll take you 1 to 2 minutes. And the reason we have an application is because the content inside of this webinar is, one, so good. It's so action-packed and so informative, but it's very specific for people who are at that point inside of their business that are ready to scale. And we've talked about in our burnout series different topics that apply to you if you are in that phase or moving into that phase of your business. And so if you're making consistent income in your business, you're considering scaling with a team, maybe without a team, or maybe you don't even know, maybe you have a very specialized service or you're working towards a specialized service, this webinar is going to be for you. So jump over to the application page, fill it out, and we would love to consider you for joining us next Tuesday. It's not going to be live on our Facebook or YouTube. We're going to have it in a private room for all of those who have been approved to join us that day.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. I'm excited for this webinar because we're going to be talking about a lot of advanced business tactics. So this isn't for the beginner. If you're brand new in your business, no, this isn't for you. This is for somebody who has 1, 2, 3 clients. You're making, $2,000 or more in your business, and you're starting to realize, man, I'm starting to max out of what I personally can do. What is the next steps? And so that's what we're diving into specifically. How do you scale a business, right? Not how do you start, not how do you grow, but how do you actually scale a business in a way that's sustainable and doesn't just equal more hustle? Because I think I know myself, like I've reached that point in business before where you're like, oh my gosh, like I want my business to grow, but like I have hustled to get here. Like I have worked my butt off to get to the point where I'm at. So if getting to the next level of business means more hustle, then like I'm out, right? But the reality is that when it comes to scaling your business, it actually, the way that you can most effectively scale, not starting and growing, although I have thoughts on that you can do that without hustle too, but specifically with scaling, I think that people have this idea in their mind that like I'm just going to have to work harder, and for most of us, we're like, I just don't have that in me. Like I don't have it in me to just work harder right now. And it really isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter, working with the right strategies, having a system in place that is going to allow your business to run in some ways without you, having an offer that isn't entirely dependent on you, right? And so those are some of the things that we're going to be diving into in this webinar. There are 6 steps to scale. So if you want to be a part of that training, go to thevirtualsavvy.com/apply. Again, it's totally free, but you do need to apply to be accepted to come into the webinar. I think we have over 70 plus people attending, right?
So far, we have just over 70 that are going to be joining us. And applications are open until Monday. This coming Monday, we're going to close applications around 8 p.m. so that we have time to look through them and approve those that can join us on the next day. November the 8th is the day of the webinar.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and jump in, because what we're going to be talking about today is facing your fear. And so what does it look like to face fear inside of your business? I know Rachel and I, we've talked about this a little bit before about, after training thousands of virtual assistants and service providers, we've seen some common fears that come up with individuals. And so it's like, man, if we see this and we see that these are the major stumbling blocks, like what if we could just call them out ahead of time, right? And so whether maybe you haven't faced these fears yet, or maybe you're sitting in the middle of one of them right now, I'm hoping that this will be a really encouraging live stream for you where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. No, like you're not alone. The reason that these are common fears is because lots of people experience them, and they're literally like the same things that we see people get tripped up time and time and time again. So this is going to be a really, really good training. I want to do this first though. Rachel, let's talk about you and your business, because you successfully scaled your own virtual assistant company as an executive VA. And I know that didn't happen without having to face some fear. So I'd love to just dig into your journey a little bit, because I'm sure that there's going to be people who can resonate with some of those fears that you faced along your journey. So would you mind just like kind of peeling the curtain back a little bit and telling us a little bit about your VA journey?
Oh, I would love to. Thank you for letting me share. So I started my own virtual assistant business in 2017. I purchased our signature course here at the Virtual Savvy, the Savvy system, and followed the course step by step. Y'all, the system works if you work the system. And I was able to very quickly launch my own virtual assistant business. My goals at the time were very small. I did not anticipate growing or even dream of scaling my business by any stretch of the imagination. I really just wanted to earn a little bit of extra cushion money for my family. In fact, the 2 things that I wanted to purchase were my gym membership, where I could also have childcare, and then also be able to pay for my son's preschool, because I wanted him to be able to go into a preschool program, and we didn't have that kind of a cushion inside of our budget at the time. And so that was really my only goal, is if I could make just a little bit of money to cushion our budget to have these 2 luxuries in my mind, then I will have been successful in my business. Well, I started my business doing the things that were very easy for me, not necessarily that I loved, but I got in, I started doing it, but I realized that I loved helping people inside of their business, and that I could do it even more and make more money. And so I landed into executive virtual assistants by just learning as I was going. I didn't know all the things all at once. I didn't know all the platforms, but I figured out who I loved working for and what I loved doing. And once I reached that point in my business, then I was able to then grow and scale my business. And so my team and I worked with high-level business coaches that were making multi 6, 7-figure dollars in their business, and we supported them in all of their things behind the scenes. And I worked with such an amazing group of subcontractors that supported me and amazing clients. But what was so important for me and pivotal for me is that I recognized I was scared of the next step. I was scared of, well, I reached my goal of being able to pay for my gym membership, and I did. I joined an amazing YMCA where my children could go, and then I was able to pay for my son's preschool. But the fear of success, believe it or not, was one of the biggest fears that I had to face, because I had already faced my fear of making this happen, but now I could do so much more if I was willing to face that fear of success. And once I embraced that fear and just took it on full force, I saw amazing things happen within my business. And it was such a huge learning opportunity for myself and a growth opportunity for myself, to embrace those fears and face them head on, and then see myself on the other side of them with that success.
You know, I think it's really interesting because we're going to talk about 3 different kinds of fear today.
Mhm.
Fear of success isn't one of them, and I'm like totally jumping ahead, but it is what it is. So, because I have felt that way too, that like, you know, I've mentioned before that, one of like the very first time, because I used to really suffer with like crippling anxiety, to the point where I would have panic attacks, and, you know, and through a lot of counseling and things like that, I haven't had one in, I think, over 2 years now, which I'm so grateful for. But like, I used to have them pretty badly. And the very first one I ever had was not at a super low time in business. It was actually one of the biggest successes.
Yep.
Like something really big and exciting had just happened in the business. And I go back and I'm like, I feel like a lot of that was fear of success. But if I look back, I almost feel like it was, like, for me, I think it was actually fear of failure, because I think I felt like I'm going to fail at being successful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I think as we look at each of these fears, and you kind of jumped ahead, gave a sneak peek, but that's cool.
I totally did.
Like each one of these fears are fears that you're going to face inside of your success. Like if you are experiencing these now, you may be in a period of success or approaching a period of success. Absolutely. And so that makes perfect sense the way that you laid that out, for sure.
Yeah, we'll dive into a little bit more. Let's talk through the 3 different types of fears, because again, we've worked with, oh goodness, I think we've had over 4,000 students now who have gone through our signature program. We've had hundreds of students who have gone through our advanced program, Savvy Circle, which is for scaling business owners. We have, you know, and we've seen these fears faced over and over and over again. And I think one of the most crippling things inside of our fears, and please guys, be vocal in the comments if you agree or disagree or have thoughts on any of this. Like, we really value your commentary here. But like, I think for me, one of the hardest things about fear itself is that I often feel like I'm in my fear in isolation. Like, not only am I scared, but I'm the only one that's feeling this, right? I'm alone in my fear. Nobody else understands what this feels like. And like, I just want you to know, from like a pulled out bird's eye view, you are not alone in this. Okay. Like, whatever fear you are currently facing in your business, I guarantee you that another business owner has or currently is facing that same or a similar fear, right? And so as we talk through this, I want you guys to know that like the reason these are common is because they're common. Like, the reason that these are the top 3 fears, and one of them is likely going to resonate with you, is because it's like, guys, we all feel this way. And somehow for me, taking the isolation part out of it actually makes me feel better. It's like, oh, like I'm still scared, but at least I'm not alone, right? Like, at least I'm not alone. So let's go through and talk through each one of these. So the first one that we've seen is the fear of rejection. What is the fear of rejection, Rachel?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
We'll have a conversation about what the fear of rejection is.
Not prepped for that question. Okay, let's dive in.
Like topic for today.
I think one of the big parts of the fear of rejection is that personal aspect of hearing no that's directed towards us, right? Like whether it be a client saying no to us, and it could be, let's take it aside from business, like even being rejected in our personal lives too.
Mhm.
Like that is real. And I don't want to diminish our reaction or our feelings, our emotion, all of that that's involved in receiving that rejection. And if any of us have lived through traumatic rejection, right, that's really hard to sometimes face and process through. But if we flip the mindset of being told no, okay, and being rejected on a personal level, if we flip our mindset and look at, okay, if I'm receiving that no now, what yes does that mean that I can embrace down the road or in the very next door that I'm going to open? There's always going to be opportunities for you inside of the no's. And the no's are actually going to help you filter through, funnel through, however you want to picture that in your mind, to the yes that's already ready for you to receive. But we have to go through those no's. We have to receive those no's, those rejections. I don't like using that word, but we have to be able to face those to get to the yes that's ready for us.
Yeah. I see it so often. I see that our students, the people who are like getting ready to announce their business or they're getting ready to tell people, it's just like, what if I tell people and they don't like it? Or what if I have a discovery call and they say no, right? And I think that um part of this for me, um, I am by nature like a more emotional person. Like I'm a feeler all the way. And so a lot of times I will make decisions just based off of my emotions. And one of the things that, especially in business, that has been a really hard learning lesson for me is that my emotions are valid. Like I can't just take them and throw them away and pretend like
Yeah.
they don't exist. Like if
Mhm.
anybody's tried to do that in the past, it doesn't work. They come right back, right? Like you just can't. You can't just like, I'm going to pretend like those don't exist, right? But I view it almost as like a train, right? Like a train has different cars on it. And so I have to decide like, is it is like what's leading the train, right? Like is the front engine train go, like I don't know train terminology well enough to do this. You know what I'm talking about? Like
Yeah.
is the front car going to be, truth? Is
Yeah.
it going to be logic? Or is it going to be emotion? And I have found for me, when I let emotion be the first car pulling the rest of the train, like it will almost always lead me into a path of not taking action or being fearful and all the things. And so for me, I have to say, I'm going to still have like the emotion's still there. It's still on the car, Maybe it's the caboose or it's one of the other cars on the train, but it's not going to be the one leading it, right? Truth is what's going to be leading it. And so for me, it makes a big difference when I say, you know what, those feelings are valid and I'm
Mhm.
not going to just ignore them, but like what actually is truth? And truth, like if you're wondering just from a super like black and white practical textbook answer is that rejection is a part of business.
Yeah.
Like you
Right.
talk about sales strategy and any kind of, sales business, which you are going to have to participate in some sort of sales activity for your business, is that there's a thing as a close rate, right?
Mhm.
And your goal is that you like increase your close rate over time. So if you have 10 discovery calls and you close 2 of those calls, great, you have a 20% close rate,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And now you can say, well, what if I can get that to a 30%? But like a 100% close rate doesn't exist, or there'd be no such thing as a close rate, right? Like the reality is that getting rejected is part of business. And and for me, being such an emotional person, if I can apply like logic and numbers, it's one of the strategies. I'm like giving you a sneak peek in that 6 steps to scale, is that we talk about metrics and we talk about numbers. And for me, it's like, oh, if this can just be a number, if this can just be data, sure, there's still emotion. Like I'm still sad that I didn't close the sale, right? But it's like, great, I have a 20% close rate. I'm going to see, what if I really, really, really learn how to do discovery calls really well? Or what if I narrow in on my ideal client? Or what if I tweak my offer a little bit and test it, right? And I become, and I get to a 30%
Yeah.
close rate. Okay, here we go. I'm improving. And you can start to like be a scientist with it, or what I had somebody once tell me, like when it comes to your business and feeling like you're failing in business, like your job is to be a scientist, not a judge. Like it is not your job to tell your own brain like you're doing good or you're not doing good, you are right or you are wrong. It's like it's a science experiment, right? So like let's test different things. And you don't need to, it's not about getting it right or getting it wrong, because the same thing doesn't actually work for every person. It's like let's be a scientist and try and experiment with a few different things, test it over time, and that's where some of those metrics can come into play. So I'm all about jumping way ahead right now.
No,
but
it's so good. Okay, I think what's important for y'all to hear too is that rejection is going to happen. Like, period. It's going to happen. But I was just having a thought while Abby was talking, is that rejection can actually happen on both sides of the table. Hear me out for a second.
Yeah.
Like rejection is going to happen from your potential client, that you may, have an amazing discovery call. You may send this proposal. Like it's just absolutely freaking awesome. And they're going to decline. You're not going to know all the ins and outs on why, but rejection is going to happen. But when you embrace that CEO mindset of owning your business and showing up to those discovery calls with, yes, emotion, but removing that emotion too, you also get to make the choice of rejecting the client if it's not the right choice.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you, as the business owner, get to make those choices inside of your business. So rejection is going to happen inside of your business. It's inevitable. We have to know that. We have to face it. But we also have the power as the CEO to make those choices and also deliver the rejection if we don't feel that it's a right match. So embrace that mindset that you get to make those decisions within your own business too.
I absolutely love that. Yeah. It's a reframing of what is a discovery call. Like discovery call is not just a chance for you to like prove like I'm worthy, like, no, it's a conversation between the two of you to decide, is this a good fit? And the reality is sometimes it's not. And that doesn't mean that you're not good enough, right? Which I know like some of us will internalize that and have that message. Oh, I wasn't good enough. I didn't perform well enough. I didn't do a good enough job. But the reality is sometimes it's just not a good fit. Like and you get to make that decision too, which I love that you pointed that out, Rachel. So good.
Rejection's going to happen. It's just a reality and we have to face it, but we can also embrace it as well.
100%. And I think that we can increase our odds of it not happening too. Like it's not something, it is an inevitable thing, but it's not something that you can't like grow in the fact of like, maybe you're not good at discovery calls and that's okay. Like you can get better, like everything that we're learning, less than 3% of people are natural salespeople. So so sales is a learned skill and it's something that you can learn and become better at. So yeah. Okay.
So good.
So good. I think this is really, really good. So the fear, number one, let me pull up my tabs again. So number one is the fear of rejection. So the second fear that we see people face over and over and over again in their business is the fear of failure. Yes? Anybody? Yay! This is the most fun live stream you've ever done, Abby.
Fear of failure. Abby,
you get it out there though, right?
Oh, for sure. What does that look like? Or I would love to hear from your perspective. Like what type of failure have you feared inside of your business? Like play that out, paint a picture for us.
Oh my gosh. I think so many things. One of my biggest mistakes, which honestly was, or not mistakes, but one of the biggest fears that I faced in the beginning of my business was fear of failure. And it was almost like crippling to the point where I didn't even want to start my business. No, we had somebody in the comments saying like I'm there, like I'm ready to start, but my fear is just completely holding me back. And I almost let that happen too. For me, there was this like somebody's entrusting me with their business. And what if I mess up? Like that was really, really, really scary for me, what if they hire me to do something and I just totally bomb it? Like I don't do a good job. I don't understand the assignment. Like I don't, whatever. Like what if I just really, really do a bad job or make a mistake.
Mhm.
I don't know if like I use this example all the time, but like um it's kind of that like what we were saying about rejection, like it's gonna happen. I'm like, I hope, are we just validating your fears by saying this? No, but I think it's reality is that like you will face rejection and you will make mistakes in your business
Mhm.
too. Like, and so there is it's like any lie, the reason why it's scary is because there's 1% truth to it, right?
Mhm.
Or also be like, that's ridiculous. It's like I'm not scared of turning into an alligator one day because I'm not, there's no chance of that happening, right? Like, but if there's like 1% truth that like this really could happen, that's what makes the thing that's scary so scary. And so like I think it's good to just call it out. Like, no, there is a chance that you'll make a mistake. And like, in fact, likely you will. I raising my hand and I'm like, yeah, the first time that I sent out an email on my client's behalf that said hello first name, you guys all know what I'm talking about because you've gotten those emails, right? Like I've sent those emails. I've hit send and gone, oh my gosh, as soon as you send it, you're like,
Yep.
no, right? And it sucks so bad. And you have to go and you have to say, here's what I did. And it
Mhm.
really, really does stink. But it doesn't, and this is what I think was able to help me get past it is that it doesn't ruin you. You know what I mean? Like when you make a mistake, especially if you're doing your very best, like I think that's the biggest thing is that like, you know, none of us are out to try to destroy anybody's business, you know, like we're not vengeful, terrible people. Like if you're genuinely doing your best and you make an honest mistake, then you can come to a person honestly and say, I made an honest mistake. And hopefully they're a really good client and they'll accept that. 99% of people will. And that's what I found is that when I made mistakes, especially if I found it out myself and owned up to it right away, like 99% of clients are willing to be like, oh man, that really stinks, but thank you for coming to me. And for me, a lot of it too is like when I make a mistake, not if, when it
Mhm.
happens, like for me, my strategy brain goes on and it's just like, okay, I'm not just going to come and be like, oh, look at this pile of poop I made, client. I'm so sorry. It's like, hey, here's what happened, but here's what I've already done to try to fix this, right? Like I already like unsent some of the emails that hadn't gone out yet or something. And here are the 3 steps that I think that we could take to move forward. How do you feel about these? Right? Like, oh my gosh, your client is going to be so much more impressed that you went ahead and thought through a plan to like start working through the mistake that you made rather than just sitting in it and dwelling in it and be like, ah, I made this mistake. I don't know what to do. Right. So that would be my advice for when that happens is to be able to come and say like, hey, here's what I did. And here's a few steps that we could do to get out of this. Is this something that you've felt, or have you maybe felt like that fear of failure in a different way? Because I know that it looks different for everyone. We were talking about like success being the fear of failure, you know, and I think it looks a lot of different ways.
Yeah, no, it's so good, Abby. And I was, you were talking, I was thinking about my own fear of failure and having that willingness to step forward when I do make those mistakes. One of the qualities, if I can speak for myself and all of the clients out there, one of the qualities that I admire the most in the people that are around me is that they're willing to admit when they've made a mistake and
Mm,
they own up to it and not trying to give excuse, not trying to blame somebody else. No, just embracing, you know what? I did this. I'm sorry. I own it. Here's what I've done. I love that tip. Like, here's what I've done to start fixing it. How can I make this better and bringing that forward? I admired that in myself towards my clients, in my subcontractors towards our clients, right? And just in my regular living life, like the closest of my friends, my husband, okay? Like all of those people I admire when they're willing to say, you know what? I made a mistake. I
mhm.
was wrong. How can we partner together um, to fix this?
Yeah.
And like Abby said, it's inevitable. Like we're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna fail. But what would happen if we didn't even try in
Yeah.
the first place? It's funny. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you. In the video that I did for my application for TVS, I won't go into all the details about the video.
It was good.
That was extra bonus. But there was a sign that I didn't even notice was on my desk in the background. And it said, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And I totally embraced that saying, right, when I first started my business, and I kept that on my desk, and I didn't realize that it was sitting there during my application. But applying to work for TVS was me facing my fear of failure, that I was going to make a mistake or mess up or not present enough value. But what if I didn't even try in the first place? I was not willing to get to the other side of that decision and have to ask myself that. What if I didn't even try? What if I didn't even put in the effort? What if I didn't even try to learn this new email platform? Yeah, we're going to make a mistake. The email is going to go out with first name in the subject line. Possibly. Not all the time. Okay. But those mistakes are going to happen. But what if we don't try and put ourselves out there? What are we going to miss out on?
I want to pull up
the video. Don't do that.
No, let's pull up Rachel's video.
Yeah.
So I think that this, if you're Jennifer, I'm going to pull up your comment here because I so resonate with this. She said, everyone close to me thinks that it's a dumb idea to start a business. I failed 2 other businesses. I know I could do it this time. I just need to do it. So I want to just address that because I think it was like a little bit of fear mixed with rejection, like fear and shame at the same time, so Virtual Assistants was not my first business either. And I think that if anybody else resonates with this, like I am a natural born entrepreneur. Like I know it. And I didn't know it until I was in my 20s, but I even look back like at high school. I wasn't one of those people that had like a ton of businesses in high school and things like that. But my dad had a business. He started a business. And I remember sitting and just talking with him. And we would brainstorm and we would have ideas and we would talk about marketing and we would, talk about his businesses or like other businesses. And he always had all of these like far out ideas. And I was like, I am right here for it. Right. And it was just like idea. And so if you're one of those people that you are, you're an innovator, you are an entrepreneur, and it is a part of you. And not everyone who starts a business has that mentality. And I think you can be successful if you are, or you're not that way. But I will say for those of us who kind of, you walk into a store or you walk into like a restaurant and your brain is just like, oh, they could fix this. They could fix this. Oh my gosh, here's a marketing idea for them. Oh my gosh, what if they did this? Like, you know who you are, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I could totally turn this business around. And the ideas just come to you. Like, no, that is a sign that you are an entrepreneur. And the fact that you've started other businesses is a sign. And so for me, it was like, for me that like, oh my gosh, I started all these businesses and they quote unquote failed, right? Like I gave up on them. Honestly, it was a lot of them, or I was just like, oh, this is not a good fit for me. Like it's not worth the money, whatever. Like I made decisions to stop those businesses for one reason or another. Like for me, that was just part of being an entrepreneur. I think that most entrepreneurs aren't still doing the very first business that they started. Like that is actually very rare for that to happen, right? It's that kind of like trial and error until you find the right fit, right? Or sometimes it's that the right fit leads you to something else that's the right fit, but you wouldn't have got there if you didn't have the first step, right? And so I'm sure that you learned so much off of those first businesses, and you learned what you like and what you don't like and what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy and what your time is worth and what your time isn't worth, right? Like I remember lugging textbooks because I used to sell textbooks on eBay, and I would have like these huge IKEA bags like full of 60 pounds of textbooks a piece, trying to carry my daughter who's in a car seat also, or like pushing a stroller with it. And I'm like, I'm going to make like $30 from this. This is not worth my time. And while I could call that a failed business, in reality, I was learning the lesson of what my time is worth. And so I was learning, like, I'm not going to devalue myself and my time. And so it was one seed learning to the thing that got me to where I am now. Right. And so, and other people aren't going to get that, especially if they're not entrepreneurs, right? Like we are a rare breed, and like other people aren't going to get it, and they're going to call us crazy. But like, that's the whole, like, I'm not going to take advice or criticism from people who aren't in the arena. Like if you're in the stands, like, firing criticisms or but you're not even there playing the game. Like why am I going to take, I'm playing a tennis match. I'm going to take advice from like my coach or the other players, not the people in the back row who have never played a game of tennis in their life, right? So like, let's listen to the people who actually know what they're talking about and who have like this, hey, yeah, here's what works in business. Here's what doesn't work in business, not people who aren't out to do it at all. So
Yes.
how to get a little boxy there for a second.
Oh, that was there's so many truth bombs that you dropped in that. I think for me, the biggest takeaway is that there was so much learning that happened for you, even in that moment where it felt almost like a failure carrying 120 pounds of textbooks. I did that just walking to college classes, right? Like, even in that moment that felt like, why am I doing this? You were learning amazing things that are going to help you down the line. So even in those moments of rejection, of hearing the no, even in those moments of making a mistake, okay, using that word carefully, or failing, you are still actually learning and receiving yeses for yourself along the pathway in that journey. And it's just switching the way that we look at it that can empower us to keep moving forward.
I 100% agree. I love this. I don't actually know who it was that posted this. They said, I literally joined 5 different MLMs, thought I couldn't have a business because those failed. And now I have a business that I love, right? Like it's just such a common story. So just know like you're not alone in feeling that way. And it's actually most entrepreneurs are doing the very first business that they started. But it is usually what gets them to the next thing. So even like people are like, well, virtual assistants is the first business I'm starting. I'm not telling you not to start it, right? Like, and I'm not saying that it's not going to work, but what I'm saying is that you will likely start your business, and what will happen is that you will get in and it will pivot. The business you have, even if you still have a virtual assistant business 5 years from now, I guarantee you it's not going to look the same as it does now 5 years from now, right? Like, because you grow and you pivot and you learn different things. So you may start out as a virtual assistant and 5 years from now, you're like, I'm a launch strategist. I didn't even know what a course was. Like, and now I'm a launch strategist, or I'm a Pinterest manager, or I'm a podcast producer, right? Like, you don't know, but it's those, your business will change and it will pivot along the way, but like, you don't know unless you start.
Right.
So we got to get started. Okay, let's see. Oh, was it Thais that posted that? That's hilarious. It was Thais that had I think that it.
Oh, seriously?
I think that's her name, but I can't tell. It doesn't show up who it was on our end. So, okay, so let's talk about the third type of fear, right? So for those of you who maybe joined later, I know like we've had 10 or 15 of you guys who have joined who didn't catch the very beginning. We are talking about the 3 different types of fears that business owners face, which are very real fears that they are common because we all experience them. And so that's why we're just getting them out into the open. We've talked about the fear of rejection. We've talked about the fear of failure. We're going to talk about the third fear in just a second. But I do want to remind you guys, in case any of you were not on at the very beginning, if you are at a place in your business, which we said this when we first started, like usually a lot of these fears happen at a shift in your business. So they usually happen at the very beginning of your business, right? Right when you're about to get started. Like I haven't launched yet. I haven't told people about my business, is when you face them and you get some momentum, you get going and you get some confidence, and then you hit them again, right? It's like, it's very cyclical. Like it's like, and now I'm scared again because I know I need to raise my prices, or I know I need to fire clients, or I know that I need to like go to the next level in my business. And that's when those fears come up again. And so if you're in that second boat, if you're like in your business, but you know that it's time for a pivot, like I've been growing my business, I have a few clients, I'm making some money in my business, but it's time to shift and it's time to scale. That's what we're going to be doing. We have a live training that's coming up. It's called the 6 Steps to Scale webinar. And it is for people who are kind of in that phase of their business, that they have a few clients already, or they're making some money already in their business, and you're ready to maybe have a high-end offer, maybe get your first or next subcontractor, really start making more money without hustling more. That's what we're going to be teaching inside of this training. So if that's you, make sure you go to thevirtualsavvy.com/apply. It's a free webinar, but you do have to apply to be in it. So wanted to get that out there. Let's talk about fear number 3. What is it, Rachel?
The fear of not being perfect enough. That's loaded, right there. Perfect enough. Those two.
Or perfect. Maybe I should just say perfect. The fear of
Yeah.
not being perfect.
Oh, how many of you really deal with perfection, like wanting everything perfect or feeling the need to be perfect, feeling the need to have all of your ducks in a row, making sure everything looks absolutely beautiful before you put it out there, making sure your systems have all the pieces in place before you begin to implement it. Like sometimes that perfectionism can cause us to get stuck in the mud and not cause us to be able to move forward. Abby, what does that look like for you? What have you seen from
Yeah.
on your side?
We emphasize this so much. Is actually one of our core values of the company is action over perfection, because we see that it is the biggest place people get stuck. And I think a part of it is like the nature of the business that we do. Like if you are thinking about being a virtual assistant, you are likely maybe you're very organized, right? And so you like things to be done right. Or maybe you are a caretaker, and so you're like, I want to take care of people, and what if I don't take care of them perfectly, right? Like that fear of failure. Or I am a creative, and I create this beautiful logo. And so when I create it, it has to be perfect, right? And so I think that just kind of the nature of virtual assistants and our personalities kind of can drive ourselves toward that perfectionism. And so what we have found is that the people who can embrace that action over perfection are the people who have the most success in our programs. So, and I want to say this really, really clearly. That doesn't mean that you can't be successful if you're a perfectionist, because trust me, we have tons of perfectionists. I'm a self-proclaimed perfectionist. Okay. So we have tons of people in our programs who would call themselves perfectionists, who end up having massive success. But when you ask them, like, what is the key to the success, it's that most of them will say it's that I just did it anyways. Like I did it even though it wasn't perfect. One of the things that I like to say is that everything is a draft one, right? And so like I think we have this finality when it comes to our business, that we're like, if I choose this as my logo, then that's it. Like it has to be perfect, when in reality it's like what's the worst thing that happens if you choose this as your logo and then 6 months from now you change it? Like it's really okay, like it's your business. You get that freedom to choose. But we do have, and I think it's tied to rejection. It's like, why do we feel the need to be perfectionistic? Well, if it's not perfect, it'll fail. Or if it's not perfect, people will reject it. I do think that this one is tied to the others. But action over perfection, I've seen time and time again, if people are like, no, I'm not embracing that value, they're the ones who struggle more. And if people are like, yep, I'm going to do it, even though it's freaking hard. I get it. Like it is so hard to embrace action over perfection, but the people who do it are the ones who find the most success in our programs. Have you seen that too, Rachel?
Absolutely. I think there's so many amazing experiences for y'all to have, lessons to learn, people to meet, all of the above, if you are willing to put yourself out there. And sometimes that's the hardest step to be able to make. Thinking back to those of you who are launching or even considering to starting your own business, like even just having the conversation that I'm going to do this before I'm ever set up with a logo and branding and onboarding. Like even just having that first conversation is challenging for you. But if you are willing to take that step and put yourself out there from the very beginning, you're going to have to do that over and over and over again, whether you're launching, whether you're growing, whether you're scaling your business. And if you're able to do that with knowing that it may not be 101% perfect, that's okay.
Yeah.
You are showing up in your true gifts, talents, and abilities, the way that you were made. You have so many amazing things to offer. If you're willing to step out and do your thing the way that you do your thing, okay, that's going to be recognized. That's going to be celebrated, and that's going to be freaking paid for.
Yeah.
Too.
So. I think for me, so tell me if you follow this train of logic. So for me, I think that the people who usually have the fear of perfection are like the ones who need to not fear it. Like, okay, so follow me here, right? Hear me out. So I think that so if you have a fear of like it not being perfect enough, you are likely just very good at like
Oh, yeah,
you
I follow you. Yeah.
like you are an organized person, or you like you
Mhm.
do like
So
you
true.
really value things being done well. And
Mhm.
so don't hear us saying like don't do things excellently, because that's not what we're saying. Like I do think that attention to detail is awesome if you have that skill, or if you create beautiful logos. Like I'm not telling you to just produce crap, like, and I think I totally fall into that black and white mentality sometimes. Like it is either going to be perfect or it is garbage. Like there is no in between. Like there is no, oh my gosh, Rachel has like literally heard me say that before about
Yes.
different things. I'm like, it is going to be a slam dunk success or it's going to be a dumpster fire. Those are the only options. It's like, or it's gonna be really good
Right.
and maybe need some work over time, and that's okay. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, I guess there is a third option. So I think for a lot of us, like the fact that you are a perfectionist is
Mhm.
actually going to like prevent you from doing the thing that you fear
Yes.
most, which is producing a pile of crap. I feel like I've used that example a lot, but it's the same thing. Like the people who are so scared, like hear me out, because this is me too. I'm just releasing all my stuff today. So the people who are most scared of people not liking them are like the most likable people. Have you ever noticed that? Or like, I'm afraid I'm going to be mean. Like
Mhm.
the people who are afraid they're going to be mean are like the people who don't have a mean bone in their body. Are you guys tracking with me?
Right. Yep.
Okay. So it's like, I'm so afraid that they're going to get offended. I'm so afraid that they're going to be mean. Mean people don't have those fears. They just say what they want. They don't care what people think. Like
Mhm.
your fear of the thing is probably going to actually prevent you from ever being that. So I'm not saying to not do excellent work. I'm not saying to not be nice to people, right? But I
Right.
think that a lot of times that fear is actually the thing that like won't happen because it's in our nature to be that way. Everybody follow what I'm saying? Okay.
That's so good. That was so good. I
Yeah.
love, for me, okay, the example that lived in my brain. Oh, so true, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Perfectionists do not submit subpar work.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
Nicole said high achievers suffer from imposter syndrome the most. It's like, I'm gonna be an imposter. Like you're like the most amazing person. Like, yeah.
Right. It's so true. And I was thinking of even myself, like one of the things that I really wanted perfect inside of my business was my onboarding, right?
Mm.
From the time that the client said yes to the first day that I start work with them. Like I want this to feel and look and operate so professional and so perfect, right? That's the way I wanted it. But because I had that desire within me that I wanted to work so hard on my systems and processes, I was putting that effort and hard work into it. And it got to the point where, okay, I have a client, let's do it. Was
Yeah.
it perfect? No. But I was able to identify through putting it out there where the misses were and where I could improve it. And by my surprise, what I thought was perfect wasn't actually perfect, that I needed to fix it anyway.
Yeah.
But being willing to put it out there, being willing to put in the hard work, wanting to make it perfect is only proof that you're putting in good effort and
Mm,
hard work. And we just need to put it out there. And
so
that's scary. It's scary.
yeah.
But, and we may get rejected. We may get a no. We may fail. It may not work, but that's okay. There's
Yeah.
yeses. There's lessons to be learned. And
Yeah.
there's things that we can make better in all.
Mm, so good. So is your perfection, is that fear of perfection? Because again, if you're a perfectionist, it's okay. I don't know if you can ever just like not have that in you. Like I can't take that out of me. That's okay. We're not telling you not to be a perfectionist. I think that it's like, is that like internal drive for perfection causing you to strive, and is it
Mhm.
causing you towards excellence and excellence in action, or is it causing you to stop and be crippled by fear, right? And there's two totally different paths that can be driven by the same emotion. And so you get to choose that. Like, am I going to let this stifle me and stop me? Or if I'm going to let this like drive me and be a striving thing that I'm going to be really, really excellent and do my very best, right? Like you get to choose that.
Yeah, and I think in facing the fear, sometimes, and you've talked about this before, Abby, like facing your fear head on, you have to be
Yeah.
honest with yourself and speak truth to yourself. If this happens, if I get rejected, if I fail, if it doesn't work, if it's not perfect, what could happen? And
Mhm.
playing that out, right? But in that same scenario, what could not happen if you don't have these discovery calls, if you don't try this new thing, if you don't put this out into the world?
Mm.
What could
So
happen?
good.
You could not meet this amazing person. You could not learn this amazing lesson. I'm using the word amazing, follow me, right? Like you could not get this out into the world and make amazing money,
Yeah.
right? Facing those fears head on, speaking truth to yourself, and also playing out what could not happen. And which one do you want? Do you want
Yeah.
to stay behind your screen working and working and working and not putting it out there? Or do you want to put it out there and make some money on it? And it may not be perfect, but you can make it better as you learn and as you grow. Savvy system, like let's use that example. Abby put an amazing product out there. It's absolutely fabulous and has changed thousands, literally thousands of lives. But we always revisit it. We always look at ways that we can possibly improve it and make it better for new students to come in. So always being willing to do it.
Mm. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this as much as we have. This is like a legit throwdown conversation, but we got to get it out there, right? Like this is the real stuff that business owners face, and it, like I said, it is it like it's something that you keep facing, but that you grow in. I will say, like the fears. So I still face fear of rejection and fear of failure, right? I still have those perfectionistic tendencies, especially when I'm stressed. I'm an Enneagram 7 who goes to a 1 in stress, and I'm like, oh, I just need it all to be perfect, right? Like I get it. So, I still face those things, but I will say, like, it doesn't cripple me in the way that it did in the beginning. Like you get better at facing your fears, right? And the fears change, and it'll be different lies popping into your head later down the line. But the more that you practice doing it scared, surrounding yourself with people who are going to feed you with truth, right? Like-minded people, the people that are in the arena, not in the stands, right? Like you surround yourself with those people, it does get easier over time, even though the fears keep coming up. So, I say this, I've said this a couple times in the past week, actually, is I think it's from a movie or something. It's really cheesy, but it's like, you feel what you feel and your feelings are real. Is that from a movie?
I think so. Don't quote me on which one because I'm terrible at that.
I know I'm really bad at movie quotes, but like, if any of you know, let me know. But like, it's not wrong to feel fear, like, and you can't stop it. Like, I truly
No.
believe that fear is one of those things that you can't stop it from coming into your
Mm-hmm.
brain or into your heart, right? Like, I think it's impossible to block fears from coming into your head. It's what are you going to do with
Yep.
it? Like, there is a choice that you get to make of, this is here. Like, I feel it. And for me, whether it's truth or not, it feels real, like, and that's valid. And I get that. But now I get a choice. Like, am I going to let that fear lead me? Am I going to let my emotions lead me? Or am I going to let truth lead me? Am I going to let a community of people who have been there, done that, who are going to cheer me on? Am I going to let those people, continue to lead the train, right? Like, what am I going to let lead me, and what am I going to choose? Am I going to choose to let this cripple me and stop me, or am I going to let this actually maybe be the thing that fuels me, right? To keep me driving forward. So, I want to emphasize, like, these are fears that people face at different stages in their business, and that a lot of you guys are at this place because you have already, like, you're at that growth stage, and growth to scaling, like scaling your business beyond just the hours you can work, is a really scary thing to do. Like, we didn't even talk about that, like the fear of hiring your first subcontractor, right? Like the fear of handing off work that your client has entrusted to you onto somebody else, or the fear of a new offer. Like, I'm going to raise my prices, or do a brand new offer. Like, oh my gosh, the fear of rejection, the fear of failure that goes along with that is so real. And so that's the kind of stuff that we're going to be talking about inside of our 6 steps to scale webinar. And we're not just going to talk about the fears. We're going to actually give you guys a step-by-step plan if you're at that place in your business, if you're at a place where you're ready to scale, you're like, okay, I have clients, I have this, but I know it's time to raise my prices, or I know that it's time for a new higher end offer, or I know it's time to start hiring subcontractors. If you know those things about yourself, then this webinar is for you. 6 steps to scale. It's a totally free webinar, but you do have to apply to attend it. So go to thevirtualsavvy.com/apply. We would absolutely love to see you there. Anything else, Rachel?
No, this has been so good. I think that there's been so many takeaways. I would love for those that are still hanging on in the comments, like, let us know what was most helpful for you. What was that golden nugget that you are taking away and putting in your pocket or placing on your desk, whatever that looks like for you? Like, what was most helpful for you to hear today? That's helpful for us to know in planning future lives for y'all. We want to be there right where you are, and we want to help and support you. So if you are ready and looking forward to scaling your business, and you kind of resonate with what Abby was describing, totally let us know by filling out that application. We're reviewing them even as you fill them out, and we want to be there to support you. But let us know in the comments what was most helpful for you today, and we'll make sure to review those as we plan for ahead.
For sure. We have a few already. Liz says action before perfection. Yep. So good. Let's see. This webinar is going to be fire.
Hey, Vanessa.
I love it. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. Again, we do believe in action over perfection. We believe in you guys. You're not in this journey alone. So thanks again for joining us. We go live every single Tuesday except for next Tuesday. So this is like the one Tuesday, besides maybe like a random holiday here or there throughout the year, that we don't go live, because we are doing this exclusive webinar training at the same time. So next week will be the only time, if you're not in that live training, that we will not be going live here in the Facebook group and on YouTube. On our Facebook page is where we go live every single Tuesday. So we'll be skipping next week unless you are a part of that webinar. Again, here's the link to apply to that webinar if you'd like to be a part of it. Thank you guys so much again for coming and hanging out with us. We'll talk to you next week.